You're now tuned in to the Real Money Coach broadcast with host Tony Jackson, author of the book Increase, Protect, and Dominate Your Money. Get ready for winning tips and strategies to effectively manage your finances and learn the key principles of protecting and dominating your money. Now, here's author and host Tony Jackson.
Good morning. Welcome to the Real Money Coach Show. I am your host, Tony Jackson, and I am glad that you are with me on this morning. This is an exciting day, right? It's exciting because God woke us up this morning and started us on our way. You know how we say that in church, right? But it's so true. It's so true. Listen, there's so much going on. There's really two what I think are kind of big newsworthy stories that I want to just bring your attention to. And as I do this, I want you to, make sure you do your research, make sure you, seek out information on your own. But I just want to bring the awareness of them up to you as you're listening to me this morning. And also, I have a wonderful guest that will be on here shortly. LaSean Smith is going to give us some great information about the 6 keys to creating a life map that leads you to financial independence, right? And so I want you to make sure you stay tuned for the rest of the show to get that. So here's the elephant in the room. Here's the thing that everybody's been talking about. It's all over social media, is the fact that the Supreme Court last week voted 6-3 against student loan forgiveness. Now, obviously, that was not good news for many of us. You're talking about, that plan, had it been approved, would have wiped out about $430 billion in student loan debt. And so now, the Biden administration, the Biden-Harris administration, are saying they're going to go and find some alternative proposals for forgiveness and that type of thing. But, here's the thing. In October, your student loans are going to come back and interest starts to accrue September 1st. And so there's a couple things that we want to make sure that we do. Number one is you want to make sure that your current information is logged into your, the student loan, studentaid.gov, making sure that the Department of Education has your current information. Now, I know you might be saying, well, if they don't have my current information, I'm good. Well, guess what? They do have your Social Security number. And so if we default on student loans, that's one of the worst things that you can do because it's federal loan money. And it can be pretty damaging to your credit and those type of things. And, I know that's a conversation for a whole nother time. But so you want to make sure that your information is current with the Department of Education. Whoever your loan servicer is, you want to make sure you're in contact with them, connect with them. And, the third thing is really to just make sure that if you're eligible for income-driven repayment plan, that you do that. And so there are about 1 in 5 borrowers are eligible for some type of reduced payment plan. And so if you're eligible for a reduced payment plan, we want to make sure that you're taking advantage of that and, making sure that you apply for that student or that income-driven plan. And the other thing I want to just remind people in terms of with the student loan forgiveness, that there's still 2 programs out there that are working. And that's if you're a teacher, that's a 5-year plan that can forgive about $17,000 or so of your student loan debt. And then the other is if you work in public service. Now, if you work in public service right now, that program actually was held up by the Supreme Court a few weeks back. And basically, if you pay 120 payments, those payments can be 0 payments if you qualify for a reduced payment plan, that if you've made those payments and you work for public service, that's government, nonprofits, schools, those type of things, and you've done that basically 120 payments means 10 years, there's no cap on how much of your student loan can be forgiven. And so you want to make sure that you still know that if you work in one of those environments, that you can still have student loan forgiveness if you're working in public service. So the other thing is just remember this, that there's ways to eliminate your debt. One of the ways that we are proponents of is called the snowball method, where you pay your lowest debt first and then you move up to the next. And you just continue to do that until you pay all your debt. So remember that that's still there as well. The other big news item that I think in light of the whole student loan thing that kind of got washed under the rug, especially here locally, is that in Charlotte, a big player in the financial industry is BOA. We call it Bank of America. Bank of America actually had quite a bad loss, right? On paper, they lost about $109 billion. And so their loss is $109 billion. Most of it is due because of U.S. government bonds. And, their losses are higher than some of their competitors like J.P. Morgan, Chase, Wells Fargo, Morgan Stanley, and some others. But it's a pretty big loss. It's a pretty big loss, and it's due mainly, like I said, due to the downgrading of the government bonds that they were very heavily invested in during COVID, which that was a common practice for a lot of the banks, is to invest quite a bit into government bonds because of interest rates rising, and that also has an impact on the bonds. So bonds, you could get into bonds very cheap, and then understanding that when it eventually would go up, well, it hasn't happened that way. And so there's, a pretty good paper loss. And I think it's important to know that it's paper loss and not necessarily actual loss in terms of their operations. The other thing I wanted to remind people of is, this is the type of news and stuff that caused overreaction in Silicon Valley, and that's the reason Silicon Valley Bank went down and others. And so don't overreact to this. I think it's important that we know, especially those of us who are in the Charlotte market, because Bank of America is such a huge player. But again, remember, this is not an operational loss. It's a paper loss. So don't panic. Hang in there. It's going to be okay. So now with that, let me just take a quick break right here, and I'm going to come back with this wonderful interview with Mr. LaSean Smith. You're listening to The Real Money Coach Show, and I'm your host, Tony Jackson.
Who could have thought the mountains could rise to their peak? Who could have thought the ocean could lay in a bed so deep? Who could have thought the sunshine could wake us from our sleep? And who could have thought of Calvary unless he loved me? Who could have thought the seasons could live in harmony? And who could have thought of a reason to build a man like me? Who could have thought a tear could be one of fear or one of glee? Who could have shared this piece of life unless he loved me? Now who shows love? Who sends love? Who gave his son for love? Who made the light sent from above? We're us because of God's love. Who can make a rainbow vibrant and true? Who can work a miracle when nothing's left to do? Who controls the wind and the flow of the sea? Who would share Christ with me unless he loved me? Now who shows love? Who sends love? Who gave his son for love? Who made light sent from above? We're us because of God's love. Who can make a baby beautiful and strong? Who can turn a house into a home? Who can make a family live together happily? God is responsible alone. Oh, who can turn a world full of hate into love? God can, he will do it for us.
Hey, Race family, join author Tony Jackson for the Real Money Coach broadcast each and every Saturday morning from 7:30 a.m. to 8 a.m. on Praise 100.9. Mr. Jackson enlightens you on the real secrets of money. He'll also help you increase, protect, and dominate your money. You can also catch Tony Jackson's The Real Money Coach every Tuesday at 8 p.m. on Facebook Live and YouTube. Check out The Real Money Coach, Mr. Tony Jackson, every Saturday morning, 7:30 a.m. to 8 a.m. on Praise 100.9.
This is Tony Jackson, the Real Money Coach. I use my deep understanding of personal financial principles and 25 years of experience to educate my clients and empower them to make informed financial decisions. I dive into the emotional and psychological aspects of money to help them uncover their own beliefs and behavior. I provide practical strategies through personalized coaching to overcome financial challenges, build wealth, and achieve financial goals. To schedule your complimentary session with me, go to therealmoneycoach.com. I'm Tony Jackson. I'm the Real Money Coach.
And welcome back to the Real Money Coach broadcast with author and host, Tony Jackson.
Welcome back to the Real Money Coach show here on Praise 100.9 and every place that you get your podcast. I am your host, Tony Jackson. As I mentioned to you in the first part of the show, I'm excited to have a young man, a gentleman, executive by the name of LaSean Smith on the line with me. Let me just tell you a little bit about him, and then we're going to have him just, go into the background even a little bit more. But he's a seasoned media technology executive. He is the founder of a private equity firm called CAGR Investments Beyond Technology. So he is the executive producer for 6 indie feature films. He has exclusive background in entrepreneurship, technology, financial independence, and personal growth. And I believe you will be inspired and motivated by his story and about him being on the show with us this morning. LaSean, how you doing today?
Fantastic, Tony. Great to hang out with you and your audience this weekend.
Man, I tell you what, I'm excited, man, because we had a chance to talk last week, and I was just so impressed by, so much of your background and some of the things that you shared with me in just that little short time period. But I wonder if you wouldn't mind just telling our listening audience a little bit about who you are and, what got you to where you are right now and what your current position is.
Sure. Well, I like to say I've had a very random walk through life so far. That's very intentional, and I love it. And what I've learned through so many experiences, I've lived in 11 cities. I currently live in Seattle, Washington. And as you mentioned, some of the things I've done from entertainment to technology, I'm also ex-military. The common thread for me has been to look at technology and try to figure out how can we entertain ourselves, how can we be more productive, how can we use all of these tools around us to do more with these, amazing technologies that we have around us. And what I found is a lot of this is just creating better systems. And so I spend the bulk of my time building and buying companies. And through that process, what I learned was, there are folks who could benefit from what I was doing on the business side, but many folks needed these same type of systems in their personal life. And what, they needed was a way to kind of pull together all these great resources out there, right? There are amazing resources, like your book, Increase, Protect, and Dominate Your Money. Folks can go and grab these resources, but they need a recipe to pull it all together. And so I created something I call the Life Map, and that's a 6-step framework to help you kind of sequence all these things we kind of intuitively know how to do or what we should do, but we need an order. We need that recipe, make that gumbo, put it all in place and make it the same way each time. And I believe that provides a more predictable path to financial independence.
Well, man, I know there's a lot of great movements, FIRE, which is financial independence, retire early movement. There's a lot of things going on. So how did you actually, establish the private equity fund and what kind of things do you guys do you provide funding, or tell me a little bit more about that?
Yeah, so for folks who aren't familiar with private equity, this is where a company like mine buys a minority, a majority, or sometimes 100% stake in a company. And this is why I'm so excited about helping business owners grow. When they're successful, I have more deal flow. And so what I do is look for opportunities where folks have a great target customer, a great product or service, but what they haven't really figured out is how to get all the operational pieces around. Do they, they streamline their sales and marketing? Have they figured out, the back of office, all the administrative tasks that it takes to run the business? And so everything from business services to, local services. We're looking at a deal right now for a commercial roof repair company. I own a couple of software as a service subscription businesses. So it's really a range. The common thread through all of these are twofold. Number one, are they small on purpose? Because we really believe that small companies, when given the right resources, can punch above their weight. And number two, can my team add value by helping them grow their business with audience? That's the marketing portion of it, and automation. And that's where I bring my technology background to say, hey, what are the processes that we can improve by integrating, smarter, more predictable steps and workflows in the day-to-day running of the business?
Well, I know, LaSean, that there's a lot of business owners that haven't really thought about, building their business so that it's sellable, right? So they may not have an exit plan. They may not have thought about that I can grow this enterprise and then actually sell it to a venture capitalist or something like that. And so I think that's a missing aspect, especially with our businesses.
Yeah, 100%. And here's two quick things I'll share. Number one, if you build your business to sell, you're going to want to plan ahead. When I sold my first business, I didn't have the right tax strategy. So while I had this crazy check that got wired into my bank account, I could have optimized it much more if I had the right support team around me. And so, as with many things in life, when you prepare ahead, you're going to be in better shape. The second thing is, and I'll just give a bit of the inside kind of nomenclature, there's something called seller discretionary earnings. It's called SDE. And this is the amount of money that you should be paying yourself if you're running your own business. And a lot of times, small business owners are not paying themselves the market rate. And what this means is when they go to sell their business, they say, hey, our business made, $1 million and we had $200,000 in profit. But maybe they were only paying themselves, $50,000. But to replace that person, it would actually cost $150,000 to replace them and all the work that they do. Well, now their business does not make $200,000 profit; it makes $50,000. And when you value a company, we typically value on the profit, how much free cash flow is left over, not how much revenue it makes. And so there are all these things that people can do to really get themselves in shape and prepare. And when it works properly, there can be these windfalls of cash that really set folks up for generational wealth.
Absolutely, man. And that's what we focus on, generational wealth. And I found that, too, that most business owners are either overpaying themselves, right, where they're just, taking everything out, or they're underpaying themselves, right? So it's usually one extreme or the other. But listen, you're listening to the Real Money Coach Show here. I have LaSean Smith with me. We're going to take a quick break, and we're going to come back, and I'm going to ask LaSean to kind of maybe give us an overview of the life map and the 6 steps. You're listening to the Real Money Coach Show.
Oh, but joy will come in the morning light. Oh, Lord, God is not a man that he should lie. Oh, he promised me. Yes, he did. He would try. Yeah. Faith was all right. Yeah. In the midst of my storm. Yes, he did. So I lay back in your arms. There will be peace in the morning.
family, join author Tony Jackson for the Real Money Coach broadcast each and every Saturday morning from 7:30 a.m. to 8 a.m. on Praise 100.9. Mr. Jackson enlightens you on the real secrets of money. He'll also help you increase, protect, and dominate your money. You can also catch Tony Jackson's The Real Money Coach every Tuesday at 8 p.m. on Facebook Live and YouTube. Check out The Real Money Coach, Mr. Tony Jackson, every Saturday morning, 7:30 a.m. to 8 a.m. on Praise 100.9.
This is Tony Jackson, the Real Money Coach. I use my deep understanding of personal financial principles and 25 years of experience to educate my clients and empower them to make informed financial decisions. I dive into the emotional and psychological aspects of money to help them uncover their own beliefs and behavior. I provide practical strategies through personalized coaching to overcome financial challenges, build wealth, and achieve financial goals. To schedule your complimentary session with me, go to therealmoneycoach.com. I'm Tony Jackson. I'm the Real Money Coach.
And welcome back to the Real Money Coach broadcast with author and host, Tony Jackson.
Welcome back. Welcome back to the Real Money Coach show here on Praise 100.9, Charlotte's Inspiration Station. And I want to remind you, every place you get your podcast, you can hear this show. Share it with your family and friends. Make sure that you do join us on Tuesdays at 8 p.m. Eastern Time. The Real Money Coach Show on YouTube, and Facebook, and LinkedIn. And so I have my guest today, my special guest, LaSean, is on the line. And LaSean, earlier when we were doing our introductions, you mentioned the 6 steps to the life map. And you and I talked a little bit about that. Would you mind just sharing a little bit of overview? Now, LaSean, as you know, we don't want to give it all to them because we wanted to tune in Tuesday to really get, a little bit deeper into it. But wouldn't you mind just giving a kind of an overview of the life map?
100%. So, as I mentioned, I help business owners with the creation of systems for their business. And I found that many folks also need these types of systems for their personal life. And the life map is a 6-step process. And I'm going to go through them quickly. We can dig deeper in another conversation. But the reason these are important is not just what they are, but also the sequence. The first one is become valuable. You have to acquire the skills, create the experiences, and stand true to your interests and values. And this whole process is called, in that first step, creating a talent stack. And this is making you uniquely valuable to the world. Number 2 is building relationships. Now, you can have a great skill set, but if nobody knows what you can do, you're not going to be very valuable on the marketplace. And when you think about that second pillar, it's about getting out, meeting strangers. For some folks, that's embracing rejection because sometimes they're not great networkers because they're afraid of how people are going to react to them. And there's plenty more in that bucket. But really building relationships is to meet the folks, create the social proof, and the social support structure, whether that's sponsors, mentors, other types of folks, whether they're paid or free people in your social circle, to make sure you have the relationships to go and amplify your talent stack. Number 3 is you got to make money. It's generate income. And this can be through entrepreneurship or as a job seeker. The key here is you're trying to be intentional with your pathway. And the relationships that you built in step number 2, they are going to be the unlock to make sure you understand all of the options that are in front of you. Now, many people kind of stumble their way through these first 3. This is where advice starts to get a little tricky. People start to make money and they stumble on step number 4, which is stay liquid. Now, there is the standard advice here, grow the gap, spend less than you make, eliminate your bad debt, build the right tools. That might be insurance or other types of activities. But the key in stay liquid is the behavioral change. And that's where I see many people struggle because they haven't set themselves up for success and say, I need to reshape my relationship with money now that now that I am making cash. And so the next step after stay liquid is buy assets. And assets can take many forms. This can be, investing in stocks and bonds. I'm a fan of keeping it simple. I just buy ETFs. But, you work with your professional to create the right program. This can be retirement programs, manage real estate, owning other businesses, whole insurance, and there's a whole portfolio of things you can do. But the key there is you're looking for assets that are truly generating you passive income. And then finally, step 6, to me, this is the purpose of it all, is to stay free. You want to, once you get to this point where you've achieved financial independence, you want to give back. This can be, charity work, volunteerism. You want to explore the world, maybe yourself. You want to redistribute your time, spend more with your friends and family. And sometimes people want to go out and start a business, that next time without potentially any investors or what have you. So this whole step that we just went through, it's a framework on not just how to do things, but the order that you can do them to more predictably reach financial independence.
Man, I love it. I love it. Y'all, listen, we got 6 steps on your personal life map to create financial independence. And I'm just going to run down through them. It's become valuable, building relationships, generate income, stay liquid, buy assets, and stay free. Man, I love it. I love it. I can't wait for us to unpack this even more on Tuesday evening. It'll be 8 p.m. here on the East Coast, 5 p.m. on the West Coast. And I want to just tell our listening audience to make sure that you tune in. And also, if you would like and you have some specific questions, of course, you'll be able to do that in the chat when we have our live show. But if you have some questions you'd like to have answered about these 6 steps and anything LaSean has mentioned, you can email those to me ahead of time by just emailing info@therealmoneycoach.com, info@therealmoneycoach.com. If you want to email some questions in ahead of time, feel free to do that. And we'll continue to unpack these 6 steps, answer your questions, because most of all, what we want, LaSean, is we want people to leave that broadcast inspired and perhaps even wanting to learn more and maybe even connecting with you, that type of thing. So before we go off the air, how would they get in touch with you? How would you prefer someone to reach out to you if they decide to do that?
Yeah, Tony, well, thanks again for this initial kickoff, and really love this conversation because it's empowering. Anyone who wants to reach out or connect with me directly can reach out on the website. It is grow@CAGR.com. That's GRO@CAGR.com.
Absolutely. Listen, you have been listening to the Real Money Coach Show here. I want to remind everyone also that you can go to therealmoneycoach.com. There you can schedule a free consultation with me as well. You can also find links to our social media, YouTube, and watch previous shows, all those type of great things. And we were going to be back. We're going to be back each and every Saturday morning. Thank you all for listening. Thank you all for tuning in on the show. Thank you all for supporting what we're doing to bring real information to you, the listener. And, the Real and Real Money Coach, as I've told you before, which maybe I need to remind you that it's for relevant, educational, actionable, and life-changing information. That's the acronym for real. And that's why this is the Real Money Coach Show. I want to wish you a great weekend. Y'all be careful. And we'll see you Tuesday, 8 p.m. Eastern Time on Facebook and YouTube. Have a good weekend.
We hope you've enjoyed the Real Money Coach broadcast with author and host Tony Jackson. We encourage you to utilize today's strategies and principles to manage your money in the most effective and winning way. If you have any comments or questions, feel free to send us an email, TonyJacksonAgency@gmail.com, or you can reach us on all social media platforms. And if you would like a copy of Tony Jackson's book, Increase, Protect, and Dominate Your Money, log on to www.therealmoneycoach.com. Until next week's empowering broadcast, God bless.